Welcome to the Conscious Radio Network. Become enlightened, have fun, and tell all your friends and family to share with everyone they know. You can watch us on YouTube and Rumble while following us on Facebook, or find us on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Our podcast can be found on Libsyn, iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and more. Most of all, remember to go to our official website at consciousradionetwork.com for past episodes, future shows, and scheduling. We also want to welcome our international audience. Don't stop now. Enjoy the community. Subscribe or follow today.
This is the Conscious Radio Network.
Hello and welcome wherever you might be on this spaceship we call Earth. This is Conscious Radio Networks, the Seance Podcast. Yeah, right? It's like we have to remind people what planet we're on every now and then.
100%. Because we don't actually know when it's going to change, because isn't it supposed to be, haven't we gone into the age of Aquarius, and aren't we supposed to now become different, right?
Yeah.
And aren't extraterrestrials supposed to be visiting us soon? So everything.
If they're not already here.
If they're not already here, right, and they're disguised, but this is supposed to be, right, the coming age is supposed to be a very different world.
Yes, it is. And for those out there, if this is your first time visiting or tuning in, please subscribe, like, share, comment, and of course, follow us wherever you listen to your podcasts. Our guest today joining us is Rhonda Britton, an Emmy Award winner, repeat guest on the Oprah Winfrey Show, and master coach who transformed lives over 600 episodes of reality TV, including her hit show Starting Over. She's the author of 4 bestsellers, including her renowned book, Fearless Living, which we will cover today, and the founder of Fearless Living Institute. Rhonda is here to share her powerful insights on overcoming fear and finding your path to self-worth using the transformative wheels technology she has developed. Let's welcome to the seance, Rhonda Britton. Welcome.
I like that clapping. It makes me feel good. Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome. And honored to have you with us today. Thank you so much. Thank you. So how did this journey start? It all started, I know, with a tragic.
Oh, tragic. Yes. And you know, I believe that, Paul, that every, horrific day we have, the worst days of our lives actually contain the seed of our destiny.
Yes.
So, so you're talking about the day I was 14 years old, and I grew up in a little tiny town in Upper Michigan, 365 inches of snow a year, 2 restaurants, Douglas House Buffet and Big Boy. Yeah. And my parents had recently separated, and it was Father's Day. So my father was coming over to take us all for brunch, which was a big deal. And I was in my mother's bedroom, and she's fluffing up her beehive hairdo and putting on her rose-colored lipstick and putting on her blue eyeshadow. And my 2 sisters are fighting it out in our one bathroom. And my dad walks in the back door. Come on, girls, because that's what dads do. Yeah. And me and my mom start walking out towards my dad to get into the car. My sister's still fighting it out in the bathroom. Mm. And as we walk out the back door, my father notices it's starting to sprinkle. And so he says he's got to grab his coat from the car. Now, this coat is a tan Naugahyde leisure suit coat. And maybe, Paul, you remember Naugahyde was hot, right? And so my dad was going to go get his hot-looking coat from the car. And so as he's opening the trunk, out of the corner of my eye, I notice that he is not grabbing a coat, but he is grabbing a gun. And he starts yelling at my mother, "You made me do this. You made me do this." And he fires. And I start screaming, "Dad, what are you doing? Dad, what are you doing? Stop, Dad, what are you doing?" And he cocks the gun again, points it at me. And I absolutely believe I'm next. And he blinks and I blink, and he blinks and I blink. And we're just staring each other down, waiting for one of us to move. And my mother, literally with her last breath, sees the gun in my face and screams, "No, don't." And when my father realizes my mother is still alive, he takes that bullet intended for me and shoots my mother a second time. And that second bullet went through my mother's abdomen, out her back, lands in the car horn. And for the next 20 minutes, all I hear is, and then my father cocks the gun one more time, puts the gun to his head and fires. And so in a matter of 2 minutes, I was the sole witness of watching my father murder my mother and commit suicide.
Wow.
Now, I don't know how you'd respond, Paul, but this is how I responded. It's my fault, right? Because I'm the only one out there that could have physically stopped it. And I didn't grab the gun, and I didn't kick my father in the shins, and I didn't jump in front of my mother. And so when you feel like you did nothing to save your mother, happiness is off the table. You don't get to be happy ever again, right? Because you let your mother die.
Yeah.
And in that moment, Paul, it's like, I split into two, the outside Rhonda and the inside Rhonda. And the outside Rhonda, I pretended everything was fine. I was fine. I'm fine. But the inside Rhonda, that guilt, that shame, that self-deprecation, that moving into self-hatred because I didn't save my mother and therefore I didn't have a right to be happy or alive. I basically walked through life that way. And when I made it to college in a different state, in a different town, so nobody knew my story, and I thought, this is my chance. Nobody knows my history, right? Like, I can be anybody I want to be, right? Well, when you stuff that pain down, as we know, there's going to be an explosion eventually. And so I started drinking, trying to numb and stuff those feelings down even more, and eventually became an alcoholic. Eventually got 3 DUIs, eventually tried to kill myself 3 times. And it was that third suicide, Paul, that made me realize there is definitely something wrong with me, right? Yeah. And I am not good at killing myself. I'm not good. I'm not skilled at it. And so when you try to kill yourself 3 times, they do put you in a psychiatric ward. So I was put away for a few days and evaluated. And they deemed me not crazy. They let me out, went back to my little studio apartment. I lived by myself in this little tiny studio apartment. And when I got home, I'll just say one thing. When I was going through that drinking, suiciding, DUIing, I was also going to therapy. I was going to workshops. I was reading self-help books. I wanted to be a minister when I was 13. I read my first self-help book when I was 12. So, I was doing everything I could to try to heal myself, to get over the trauma, to get through the pain. And when I got home from that third suicide attempt, I realized I had a lot of knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. I knew a lot of things and I had some tools, but nothing I had done took away the feeling that there was something wrong with me. And it was that realization that I had been trying to fix myself for 20 years that made me realize that I had to start over. I had to, it's like I had to clean the slate and start over. And I remember thinking, what do kindergartners do? Because I really believed that everything I'd done while it was good wasn't changing me at my core, wasn't healing me, wasn't unfurling my soul, right? And so I went to the store, got some calendar and gold stars, and started giving myself a gold star every day, anytime I did anything good. And that might have been drinking but not getting drunk, or getting angry and not breaking anything, right? Like that's the level of evolution I was at.
Yeah.
And after 30 days, I had a calendar filled with gold stars. And that gave me hope that there was some reason I was alive. And there gave me hope that there was something that I could do to change my life. I didn't yet know at that moment in those 30 days that it was fear that was holding me back. That would come as I practiced my stars and as I continued my own growth and transformation. And then one day, not one day, but the evolution of days, it finally hit me that my father killed my mother out of fear. My mother stayed with my father because she was afraid. And I was making all these choices and I was living the way I was because I was afraid. And if you would have asked me, Paul, if I was afraid or scared, I would have said no. I had no relationship to the word fear, right? I didn't even if you would have said to me after my parents died, the day after, if I was afraid, I would have said no. Like I grew up, like I said, in Upper Michigan, and I'm 100% Finnish, so we don't feel, and we definitely don't talk about being, afraid.
Yeah.
So I had no relationship to fear. I had no idea that fear was driving my behaviors. I just thought I was not good enough, right? I just thought there was something wrong with me. I didn't understand that that was fear telling me that I was being run and, tricked by fear itself.
Mm. Wow. Yeah, and as 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 life went on, even today when we look back on it, a lot of people say that, or I hear a lot, is in order to overcome anything is that a level of forgiveness. Whether somebody did something to somebody, you did something to somebody, or
Sure.
whatever, is a level of forgiveness.
Yes.
Did you feel, or did you have to succumb to that forgiveness to forgive your father for what he did?
Not only did I have to forgive my father, I had to forgive my mother, and then I had to forgive myself. So the day that they died, I was going to be a minister when I was 13. So, here I'm 14, and our minister came that day, and obviously came over to see if we were okay, et cetera, just administer to us, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I told him I forgave my father. Like I really believed I did. And I think that's the confusion about forgiveness, because people think, well, I forgave. Why do I feel this way again? Well, we only forgive based on our availability of consciousness.
Yeah.
So at the level of consciousness I was on at that day, I did forgive him that day. But then as I grew and I became more awake, I recognized there were lots of other reasons I needed to forgive him. There was lots of places I hadn't forgiven him. I like to think of the body just as a visual. It's like the day they died, if you want to think of your whole body as a place that you need, the forgiveness. I forgave him like a pinky, right? Like I just forgave him a pinky, but I thought it was my whole body, right? I thought I forgave him completely. And it was only as we evolve and develop that we recognize all the places, all the stuck places that we once again must forgive. So it was the 20th anniversary of their death. Now they died when I was 14. So here I am at 20 years later. So I was carrying them for 20 years, even though they only lived for 14 years, almost half as much. And I decided to do a big forgiveness ceremony. And I went to a lake here in Los Angeles. I asked my best friend to witness, because I do believe we need witnesses in our life to remind us that we did things, that we did do it, because we forget.
Yeah.
She came, and that day I wrote things like, all the reasons that were good that you were my parents. And I ripped it up, put it in a copper pot. And then I wrote all the reasons that it was bad you were my parents, right? And then all the things that I learned from you, and all the things that I, was punished by, or, again, whatever it was. I wanted to get the full spectrum of all the things that were the reasons that these people were my parents and that I was their daughter. And each time I would rip it up, the letter, rip it up, put it in the pot. And then at the end, when I had this big giant thing of, paper, I burnt the whole thing, and then I buried it. And this took like hours. I was there probably 4 or 5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I really wanted to be thorough, because this was like, I was doing it, right? Like I was giving it. And you bet I cried, and I prayed, and I breathed, and I meditated, and did everything. And I'll never forget this I hope as long as I live, because when I finally completed, buried the burnt paper, next to the lake, got some lake water and put it over, and I stood up and turned to go to my car, right, to leave. As I was walking in those steps, I distinctly remember the feeling that this was the first time I'd ever walked in my own steps without carrying my parents on my back. And Paul, if you would have asked me the day before if I was carrying my parents on my back, I would have said no. Right. And that's, I think, the thing that we don't recognize, so many of us. I know I didn't. Like, I thought I forgave them. Right. And then you go, oh my God, I haven't forgiven them. And most people beat themselves up instead of going, oh, I'm just going to forgive them at a different level, right?
Yeah.
So I did this big ceremony. And when I walked away, I was like, it's like I could breathe, right? And I felt this weight just melt away and drip away. And I had this realization that I was sovereign onto myself for the first time in my life at 34 years old, and that was miraculous to me. Because again, if you would have said that to me, I would have been like, no, I've let them go. I've released them. So many, I've already done that,
Yeah.
And that's not how forgiveness works. And so we want to build a relationship with forgiveness. Not only, like I said, that day I forgave my father, but I had to take my mother off the pedestal of victim, right? Like my poor mother is the victim. I had to take her off the pedestal and see her as a woman. And then I had to forgive myself as a 14-year-old girl. And then I had to forgive myself for punishing myself when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, right? All the years that I punished myself, all the years I drank, all the years I tried to commit suicide, all the years that I got DUIs. I had to forgive myself for all those years.
Yeah.
And all those me's, right? And so it was miraculous. And I believe that forgiveness is a daily event.
Oh, yeah.
So we have to forgive ourselves when we're, maybe we're rude to somebody and we go, oh God, we walk away and we go, oh my God, I could have handled that better. Just forgive yourself. Let it go.
Yeah. That's a very important.
Yeah.
Now, needless to say, how are you today?
Well, I'm fantastic. Thank you very much. It's so funny. Sometimes when I give a keynote or a talk, and when I give a keynote, I don't tell my story until like 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah.
Because when I used to tell it at the top of the talk, people would come up to me and go like, "Are you okay?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, I just talked for an hour and a half, so I'm really good." But they need to know I'm okay, right? Like people need to know I'm okay. And so yes, I'm okay. My sisters are okay. We're okay. I've had the privilege of then, after I forgave my parents, I had this miraculous intervention by God himself, source. And I can talk about that if you'd like. And that set me on the path I'm on now, because I would never have believed I'd have the right to do what I do today, because I still thought of myself as, well, my past is my father killed my mother, killed himself. And I was an alcoholic, and I did have DUIs, and so I did not think I was a role model, right? Like nobody wants to follow me.
Yeah.
So it took a miraculous intervention by God himself to move me to this path. And I'm just glad he did. And I'm glad that I'm here. And I've had the privilege of 30 years, for the last 30 years, to not only keep transforming my life, but to transform thousands and thousands and thousands of people's lives.
Yeah. And that's what's amazing too. This is a story of the phoenix from the fire.
Oh,
if it wasn't for that tragedy, you would not be here today, the
100%.
person you are, and the gifts that you're giving to everybody.
100%. And I like to think of it this way, Paul. I like to think of me, my mom and dad up in heaven. We're hanging out before we reincarnate, right? And we're talking. We're not, of course, we're not mom, dad, and daughter. We're just three angels hanging out. And it's like, oh, what do you guys want to do next lifetime? I don't know. What do you want to do? Right. And my dad at the time goes, oh, I got it. I got it. And we're like, what? And he goes, Rhonda, why don't you, and again, of course, my name wasn't Rhonda, but it's like, Rhonda, why don't you help people master fear? And I go, me help people master fear? Really? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, but something bad's going to have to happen. And we're like, yeah, something bad. Right. And so he goes, okay, I'll be the bad guy this lifetime. And we're like, okay. And he goes, how about I be the dad, you be the mom, you be the daughter. And you know what? I'll kill you, and then I'll kill myself in front of you. And then you'll go on to da-da-da. And we're like, sounds great. Yeah, that's right. This is awesome idea. Right? Right? Because all we're thinking about is the transformation we are going to each individually have, but also our soul's unfoldment, right? So, so we're up there totally into it, right? And then of course we come to earth, we forget everything. And then I have to crawl through glass for 20 years. And, basically, crawl through glass is the best way to put it, for 20 years.
Yeah. And your newest book now, you've got what, 4, 5?
I've got 4 books. Yeah.
4 books. And uh, Fearless Living is the fourth, correct?
Fearless Living is my number one, my first book, and it is the holy grail of my books because it actually, there's a chapter about how to let go and how to forgive. And it talks about my ceremony for forgiveness. And it also describes what my core work is, which is the Wheel of Fear and Wheel of Freedom, which helps people identify what they're truly afraid of. Yeah. Because most people say, well, I'm afraid of not being good enough. And it's like, well, okay, accurate. But that's the generic version. And what I realized in my own transformation is being generic didn't really help me because it didn't ground me into my own lived experience, like who I was in this plane at this time. And so I created something called the Wheel of Fear and Wheel of Freedom. And by the way, when I say the word I, it's not me, it's the divine channeling through me, right? Yeah. And so created the Wheel of Fear and Wheel of Freedom. And that Wheel of Fear and Wheel of Freedom helps you see what your core fear is, the thing that stops you. And it's like an invisible prison. So when you get caught up, when you feel stuck, when you feel small, when you're beating yourself up, when you're like, why am I like this? It's your Wheel of Fear. And when you're feeling in the flow, when you're feeling connected, you are on your Wheel of Freedom. And I show you how to actively move from your Wheel of Fear to your Wheel of Freedom so you can be in that state of flow, in that state of grace, in that state of I am one with myself anytime, anywhere. So you do not have to stay in that invisible prison called fear.
Yeah. Wow. And the limiting beliefs, the things that limit us from doing what we truly are, who we are, and not expressing ourselves.
Yeah. And the limiting beliefs are just a symptom of fear. So the fear creates those limiting beliefs in order to trick you into believe it's limiting beliefs. So fear keeps you occupied, right? It goes, oh, here, focus on limiting beliefs. And again, limiting beliefs, I'm not saying they're not real, but they're just a symptom of the fear.
Yeah.
And so people like change the chairs on the Titanic, work on limiting beliefs, work on procrastination, work on overwhelm. And again, all those things are true. They feel true and they're all important. And that's all good work. Yet what you want to do is you want to get underneath it and actually get to the root, which is that core fear that's driving all what I call fear responses. So your fear response is that limited belief. Your fear response is that procrastination. That fear response is that overwhelm. That fear response is people pleasing. That fear response is everything that you beat yourself up for, anything that you think you do wrong, bad, et cetera, anything you judge yourself for comes from that is quote unquote a fear response. So one of the things that people can do right away is just start labeling things fear responses. So when they're procrastinating, instead of going, oh, I'm procrastinating, I'm a horrible person. No. Oh, it's a fear response. Oh, I'm procrastinating because my fear has been activated. Okay. If you simply do that and never found out your core fear, you would be far ahead than most people because you would be now labeling them correctly. You would be reframing them correctly. So you don't have 10 problems, 5 problems, 12 things you got to fix about yourself. It's just these are the things that come up when you are triggered by that core fear that is there to protect you, to keep you safe, part of your neurobiology, and you will never get rid of it.
Yeah. And overthinking. We always overthink. We just think, a thought will come in and then we just keep thinking about it, going think.
And that's a fear response. Yeah.
Sabotage.
Yeah. But it's, it's all out of, it's all out of love because everything is love, I believe. And so even fear was created of love. And so fear loves you and it's just trying to keep you safe. And so it doesn't know that you're a grown-ass person, right?
Yeah.
And also fear doesn't know the difference between a physical fear and an emotional fear. So you and I can probably have a conversation. We're at a coffee shop and I can say, oh, I hate heights. And you can be like, me too. And we all are willing to confess, most of us, our physical fears. I don't like snakes. I don't like spiders. Heights, crap. I hate that. But emotional fears, we are not in relationship with. We do not understand that emotional fears basically run our day. Yeah. So that fear of rejection, that fear of failure, that fear of looking stupid, that fear of loss, that fear of the unknown, those things are literally the fabric of your day. And all of those are just triggering you throughout the day. And you're thinking that you're weak or wrong or stupid or lazy or overwhelmed or overthinking. And you blame that. And again, I get it. It's a fear response. Of course, those are easier to see. We can see our fear responses. And so again, what we want to do is start really relabeling them. So when we're overthinking, we can go, oh, okay, this is the way that fear is loving me right now. This is the thing that's trying to keep me safe. It's having me overthink it so that I can protect myself from making a bad decision. Right? I want to make the best decision, the right decision, the good decision, right? So I'm going to overthink it, right? And again, great skill to have, but not very useful when we're wanting to follow spirit, when we're wanting to follow the divine, when we're wanting to live in the grace, when we're wanting to live in the flow. Not necessarily a good skill.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And again, I want you to be able to think. Philosophers think deeply. I want you to be able to think deeply. But I want you to apply it when it's needed and necessary, rather use it as your default.
Yeah. When we got work to do and we got a business to run or we got a life to live, move forward. Keep moving forward. Keep traction and momentum.
That's right. Yeah. If you got momentum, baby, then everything flows, right? So that's the thing, people, it's that start, right? So even when I talk about reframing, just changing the language about how you describe, procrastination or beating yourself up or overthinking or overwhelm, et cetera. And you just start calling it a reframing it to fear responses. That's going to be like you're going up a hill because it's a new behavior. So you're like, oh yeah, I got to do that reframe again. I got to call it a fear response, right? It's hard. You don't remember, right? But as you do it over and over again, as you and I both know, and as many people who are watching or listening right now know, then eventually on the 10th time, the 15th time, the 30th time, now you're up on the top of the hill and you're cruising down. And that momentum opens you up to new insights that are not possible when you're going up the hill in a slow movement. But that slow movement is critical in order for you to get up the hill, in order for you to build that momentum to move forward. So it's all good, right? It's like we're made in a way that is meant to help us become who we're meant to be on this earth.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me bring up your book here. There we go. A 3D.
There's my book. There's my book.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in Fearless Living, there's 3 ways to get your wheels. One is the book. Go through the book. It has the exercise, everything you need to figure out what your wheel of fear is. So your core fear, the thing that drives all those fear responses. You can take my Fearless Living Transformation Program and you go to fearlessliving.org and find that. You can take a self-paced class, or you can hire a certified Fearless Living coach and have that one-on-one experience if that supports you, because everyone learns differently. Some people like one-on-one, they want personalized service, personalized support, and other people like a book and they want to go through it with a friend and they want to kind of dig in, right? Yeah. So you can get your wheels today if you want. Go grab the book and it's on Audible. I invite you to make sure that you have get a hard copy even on ebook so you have the exercises there. So
yeah,
kind of hard to follow me voice by voice. But also I have a free gift if I may. Am I willing?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So this is also going to support you right away. So go to fearlessliving.org /risk, RISK, fearlessliving.org /risk, RISK. And when you go there, you're going to put your name and your email in, and you're going to get access to a class called Stretch, Risk, or Die, right? Stretch, Risk, or Die. And basically, this is my client's number one favorite tool to help move them forward, to build momentum, to start breaking through the places that they're kind of feeling stuck when they've got a dream, a goal, something they want to make happen. And so I'm going to share what the tool is inside. It's only 3 15-minute videos, people, 3 15-minute videos. You can do it. And it's got templates, worksheets, everything you need in order to do this exercise. And what it's going to do is cure that procrastination and show you how fear is the thing that stops you. And then on the 3rd video, I actually explain the wheel of fear. So you're going to see me sharing my wheel of fear in real time on that video so that you can actually see how it works, so you can have a better relationship with it. So I highly encourage you to go put your name, email in, 3 15-minute videos, do it in the next 24 hours. It's got the worksheets, it's got audio, it's got video, it's got everything you need in order to start understanding what fear really is and how it really is holding you back. But more importantly, it's going to show you how to break free, how to start moving forward so you can start building that momentum. So you don't feel crazy anymore. You don't feel lazy anymore. And you don't feel like, what's wrong with me? Why aren't I doing this? I know I can do it. Why? Trust me, I've got the answer for you. It's going to be in the Stretch, Risk, or Die course.
Nice. And you also talk about making fear. making fear your friend, or kind of
Yes.
embracing fear
Yes.
and using that as a tool. Explain that.
Well, what I said earlier about fear loving you. So one, fear is part of our neurobiology. So don't ever take a class that says you are never going to be afraid again, because
Oh,
that means they're going to give you a lobotomy. So don't do that.
yeah.
Instead, you need to understand how fear works, because fear doesn't want to be seen. The wheel of fear knows everything you know. It's as smart as you are, as educated as you are, as knowledgeable as you are, and as spiritual as you are. It knows everything you know, and it uses it all against you in service to keeping you safe. And it doesn't know, like I said, it doesn't know that you're a grown ass adult, right? It doesn't know that you've gotten married and have 3 kids. It doesn't know that you've been divorced. It doesn't know that you've built a business. It doesn't know that you've worked for the last 10 years. It doesn't know any of that. All it does is go, well, I have to keep him alive. And so what that wheel of fear wants to do is it wants you to repeat the past. And that's why when we feel like we're hitting our head against the wall, like, why am I doing the same thing? Well, that's what fear wants. Because if you're alive right now, Paul and I are alive, we're alive right now, which means fear goes, well, I've done a good job keeping them alive. I just have to keep them doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
And it will change faces, right? It'll change names. It'll change how it looks, but it's the same pattern, because it's the only way it knows that you'll stay alive, because it's already done it. So it's a good job. So when you start thinking crazy things about taking risks, like taking that stretch, risk, or die, fear goes, oh my gosh, something bad could happen. And it tries to trick you into stopping. It tries to tell you something bad's going to happen. It tries to trick you into slowing down or stopping. So this is what we want to understand about how fear works, so that we can transcend fear, so that fear isn't in charge of us anymore. Instead, we go, oh, fear, I see how you want to help me. Thank you so much for keeping me safe. Thank you so much. I love you and all. And I've got this, right?
Yeah.
I'm 24 years old. I'm 38 years old. I'm 56 years old. I got this. And fear's going to be like, oh my God, no, it's going to be horrible. And you go, you know what? If it's going to be horrible, it's going to be horrible. And I'm willing to do it. And it's like, no, don't. And you're like, I know. So you are like a grandma, and you talk to fear and go, I got it. And then you do what I call the wheel of freedom, and you take what I call a proactive behavior on your wheel of freedom and start moving towards the place that really serves you and that really sets your soul on fire. So fear doesn't know. The wheel of fear is formed by the time you were 7. And there is no one event, because people say, well, your wheel of fear is that because your father killed your mother. No, my wheel of fear and your wheel of fear was formed by the time we were 7. And also, they've now proved, neuroscience also has proven that our fears can be handed down through our DNA. So you and I may not have any experiences about why. We can't name anything why we have this fear, right? So when people are like, why am I like this? It's like, there is no one why. Instead of wasting your time going, why am I like this? Go, okay, I'm going to tell you what happens when you're triggered on the wheel of fear, so that you can actually make a different choice. So again, it's fascinating to do the why, like, wow, but this is what I know to be true, Paul.
Yeah.
As you move forward in your life, as you start taking stretch, risk, and dies, as you continue to be on your soul's unfoldment, as you need to heal a part of you, that memory, that experience will come up to be healed. You don't have to go looking for it. It will visit you. You want to become intimate with somebody, and you had a difficult relationship with your mother, your father, an ex, maybe you had domestic violence, maybe you were raped. It's going to come up in order to help you move and become more intimate, right? So you don't got to go looking for it. It's going to come when you need it to be healed.
It's amazing what, through this conversation thus far, how much of an animal fear is. It's amazing. It's like, it can't be seen. It's got a mind of its own. It either comes in through this inner dialogue that we can't shut off, and the power that it can have, that if we allow it.
That's right.
It's just amazing,
But we don't even know it is fear. That's the thing. that's why one of the things I invite everyone to do is to start changing all their, the things that they beat themselves up for as fear responses. Because what do I say? What do you say? What do most people say? Oh, there's something wrong with me. I judge. I'm a horrible person. I judge people. Oh my God, I got to quit thinking that. Oh, I really should know better. I know better. Why am I doing this? Right? So we do a behavior, i.e. a fear response, and then we berate ourselves, beat ourselves up, that negative self-talk, because we think we should know better. We think we should do better, right? And we don't understand that that's being activated by our core fear. And once we can shift that awareness and quit blaming ourselves, because every time we blame ourselves, every time we judge ourselves, every time we say, I'm bad, I'm wrong, there's something bad wrong with me, we are actually reinforcing fear. And those neural pathways inside of our little brain are getting reinforced. So instead, we want to say, wait a minute. This is a fear response. There's nothing wrong with me. This is just a natural fear response. And because once you understand your fear responses, you can change them. So for instance, I don't really beat myself up anymore. I haven't for decades. And so you don't have to continue beating yourself up. You don't have to continue to use that as motivation to change. I can't tell you how many clients come to me and go, well, I've got to continue to beat myself up because then I tell myself what I have to fix. It's like, really? Has that worked for you? Because Paul, I've never met anyone that's actually worked for, but I can't tell you how often I hear that. I got to keep doing it because I'm telling myself the truth. It's like, well, I don't think you have to beat yourself up to tell yourself the truth. Right. So it's just, we are participating in the demise of our own soul's calling. We're helping fear every time we buy into beating ourselves up. So one of the rules in fearless living is never, ever, 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 ever beat yourself up or another human being.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What seems to be the most common fear?
Well, there are 10 common fears. And I'll use mine, and this isn't necessarily the most common, but I'm actually in the middle right now of making a quiz. It's not ready yet, but soon on my website, you'll be able to go and take a quiz to help you find out what that core fear is. So I'll just use mine for an example. My core fear, the thing that fear did not want me to see, because again, fear doesn't want you to find your core fear. Because if you find your core fear, then it can't protect you, right? It needs to be hidden, right? It's kind of like the Secret Service. They don't want to be seen because then they can't get the bad guy, right? It's the same thing. Fear doesn't want to be seen. So the minute you see it, the jig is up, and you now have power.
Yeah.
So my core fear is loser. Like I'm afraid to be seen, smell, anything around me, loser. Now, Paul, I've never been called a loser in my life, right? Because I'm really good at making sure nobody thinks I'm a loser.
Yeah.
Right? And so to keep that in place, I've had to shift myself, contort myself. I've had to lie to myself, right? I've had to do all these things. But the minute I saw it, which by the way I couldn't believe that was my core fear, because that's most people. When they get their core fear, they're shocked at what it is. Shocked because they're like, what? That can't be, right? Because you've never been called it, right?
Yeah.
I've had people say, I know mine, it's lazy because I was called lazy my whole life. Look, if you've been called lazy your whole life, trust me, that is not your core fear, right? It is not a word you use and not a word you're comfortable with and a word that is not in your vernacular. So loser was never in my frame of reference. Like I never applied that to myself. And so it was like a go. But now when I procrastinate, beat myself up again, whatever it is I'm doing, I immediately know that there is some smell, some sense of loser around me. And I 99.9% of the time can see where it came from.
Wow.
Maybe I got an email, maybe somebody said something, maybe I'm about to take a stretch, risk, or die, right? And that concern, that worry, again, never had a relationship to it, but now I can see it so clearly. And then I get to decide, do I want to help fear and protect me from being seen or experienced as a loser? Or do I want to live on my wheel of freedom, which for me, I'll just say my essential nature, that's one of the core spokes on the wheel of freedom, is authentic. So I'm either protecting myself from being seen as a loser, or I'm making choices to be authentic. Now, this is the trick. if it was unconscious to me and I was being authentic, what fear would whisper in my ear is, you can't be authentic. It's not safe to be authentic. So most of my life, I yearned to be authentic. I admired people who I thought were authentic. I would write down quotes about authenticity, the E.E. Cummings quotes, which I'm going to butcher. The hardest thing to be is yourself. You have to fight for it the rest of your life, right? Yeah. I would write these things down, but I never felt safe enough, comfortable enough to be authentic. It was a desire, but it was something unavailable to me because the wheel of fear was running my life and was telling me that's dangerous. Right? Now, I do want to say one caveat. There are areas in everybody's life they're already living on their wheel of freedom. So every area in your life that's working for you, you're already on your wheel of freedom.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking about the wheel of fear, really think about the areas that aren't working for you. So could I be authentic in areas I would felt safe? Yeah, sure. But the areas that were my Achilles heels, the areas where I had the biggest struggles, the biggest, negative self-talk, those were the areas that was impossible for me to be authentic until I saw it and could see that authentic was actually my way out of my wheel of fear.
Wow.
Right?
Very, very strong. Yeah. Now I heard, I read this, I heard this, I feel it. As far as a fear that is genetic, it even stems down to the human species, to the primitive version of mankind. Is the fear of not belonging, not being part of society. Because back then we had to be part of society in order to survive, in order to live.
Yes.
And if you were shunned from the village or the tribe, you were dead.
Yes. Yes. And so I like to frame that as our number one core need. Our number one need is belonging and connection. And so when I'm on my wheel of fear of loser, I can't connect and belong, right? Because I definitely don't connect and belong to myself. So I don't have sovereignty. I don't have agency, right? But when I'm on my wheel of freedom and living in authenticity, then I have sovereignty and agency. And I do feel like I connect and belong because first and foremost, I connect and belong to myself. So our number one human need that drives so much of our wheel of fear is connecting and belonging. And so it's really important to start recognizing our needs. And that is just not taught in our society. And, I know when I started doing my need work, that was after I created the Wheel of Fear and Wheel of Freedom. It was years after that I started understanding needs and starting to see where needs fit in. So yes, we have, each one of us, whether we agree with it or not, because I know a lot of people would be like, I don't need anybody, right? It's like, I'm fine by myself. It's like, okay, all right. Yeah, maybe you're on your wheel of fear. Maybe just think of that, right?
Yeah.
So our number one, all human beings need to connect and belong. And again, when you're on your wheel of freedom, you start connecting and belong with yourself. You have agency and sovereignty. And so then the world isn't so frightening, right? Because the world is frightening when we're not in our own life, we're not having agency over our own lives, and we believe the external world has power over us.
Yeah.
But when we start having agency, we understand that we have, power, we have fortitude, we have the ability to make choices, to, be in charge of our destiny, so to speak, right? So that gives us the ability to ask for help when we need it. It gives us the ability to say, I need you, right? When we're in fear, we don't want to need anybody because they could hurt us, right? We don't want to belong anywhere because they could take it away, right? So we're scared to have that connection. We're scared to that need and that belong and that connection because it could be taken away. When you're in your sovereignty, when you're on your wheel of freedom and you have agency over life, yes, do you want that to be taken away? Of course not. But you know that you are more than that. You do not exist because they love you. You do not exist because of their approval of you. you exist onto yourself.
Yeah.
And so there is that level of, sure, you can still be sad. Of course, you might be devastated, but you are, again, you have agency over your life and you have power over it. So you know you can make different choices. So when you're on your wheel of fear, you don't feel like you have agency. You know, you don't feel like you have power. You feel at the whim of the external world.
Mm. And speaking of the external world, it's I feel that the social programming has got, especially nowadays with technology, we got the smartphone, we got all these television programs, radio programs that talk about this and that and that and this, and you gotta beware of this and beware of that and fear this and fear of that, and it's like this programming us all this information where it's like, wait a second, is that really the truth, or is it guiding the sheep into another direction?
Yeah, well, but again, that's true. We are literally being brainwashed every day if we did not have sovereignty over ourselves.
Yeah.
So again, when you have sovereignty and agency, you can filter those things.
Mm-hmm.
You might not filter them perfectly, right? We're all susceptible to certain things.
Yeah.
But you're more at choice, right? And that's the thing. When you are on your wheel of fear, it feels like you do not have choice. Right? It feels like you have to, you should, you better, again, or something bad's going to happen. When you're on the wheel of freedom, you have choice. And the most powerful, powerful, powerful thing on this planet is choice. Yeah. And the minute you take your choice away, you are brainwashed. You are on your wheel of fear. You are at the effect. So unless, this is one of the things I teach my clients, unless you're willing to be wrong about everything, you will not find the right life for you. So are you willing to be wrong about everything? And I mean every belief you hold, everything that you think. You must always be willing to be wrong, right? And if you're willing to be wrong, then you're able to more consciously and awake filter the information that's coming to you.
Yeah.
To know what works for you or doesn't work for you, right? To know what you feel, your soul. So we want to have choice. So we all know people that just go along with the herd. And don't get me wrong, they think they're smart. They think they're amazing. They think they're not doing that. But you and I can see like, oh, they're going with the herd, right?
Yeah.
But they don't want to wake up because you know why? Because they belong somewhere. And they don't necessarily care where they belong. They just want to belong somewhere, right? I mean, it's the truth, right? Those people invited them in, they belong. And it's like, I belong, right? And that belonging, as you said earlier, is so seductive, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so you don't leave that group, even you don't leave that, quote unquote church or that group or that social club or that cult. Wherever you are, right? What'd you say?
The cult.
The cult, right. You don't leave the cult of whatever it is because you don't see it as a cult because it's giving you life in your mind.
Yeah.
But it gave you life when you were lost. And you will continue to be lost if you don't start searching for yourself and find yourself. So, and what happens with a cult and what happens with, belonging is just like any addiction, it gets worse and worse. Mm-hmm. They want more control, more power, more, so that's one of the signs. If they want to cut you off from friends and family, if they want to tell you that everybody's wrong except them, if anyone says to me, everybody's wrong except me, I immediately know that person's not safe. It's absolutely guaranteed. If they say I have to do this to belong, I don't know, because I know that is taking away my free will and choice, right? Because a healthy human being wants you to have free will and choice.
Yeah. Unhealthy
people do not want you to have free will and choice because they don't want to be challenged. So they want you just to go along to get along.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it's a crazy world out there, man. It's a crazy world.
Crazy world, Paul. Yes, it is.
So before we wrap up the show, what do you have to offer as a takeaway? Some words of wisdom.
Oh, I want everyone, if they're willing, and this is a little woo-woo, but to put your hand over your heart, just put your hand over your heart right now. And I want you to, if you can, if it's safe to shut your eyes, just if you can, if you're driving, please don't shut your eyes. But if you can shut your eyes, right? Yeah, don't shut your eyes. But if you can, shut your eyes, if it's safe, put your hand over your heart and listen to these words very carefully and take them in. There is nothing wrong with you. It's just fear. There is nothing wrong with you. It's just fear. There is nothing wrong with you. It's just fear. Now let that soak into every cell of your being. Let it melt everything away that is not truly authentically you. Soak it in. There is nothing wrong with you. It's just fear. And imagine if the next time you beat yourself up, you said to yourself, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just fear.
Yeah.
I bet the answer that you'd come up with, the action you would take would be different.
Oh,
Let
yeah.
it soak in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Woo!
I already felt that. I felt that.
Yeah.
Rhonda, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. And keep us posted. If there's anything new coming out, a new program, a new book, an update to the book, a new course.
I've got 3 things being launched this year, so I will
Great.
connect with you and let you know. And that quiz is coming up too soon. So
Yes. Yeah. Let me know when that quiz comes up, and we'll help you. We'll help you.
Spread the word.
Yeah, help you spread the word and get some test takers.
Oh, goody. Oh, I love that. Beta test takers. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Paul.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. And thank you, everybody, for watching Conscious Radio Network's The Seance. And we will see you next time.